All right, everybody. Hello and welcome back to Tiny CEO. Yes, I'm doing this episode shirtless because it is so fucking hot here in Sydney. It's almost 100 degrees in your language, and it is boiling in my apartment. I don't know why, but it is fucking hot. So anyway, um, hello. Good evening on this Friday night. It's ironic. It's boiling hot here. I'm sure it's freezing cold in the States right now. Lots to talk about really this week. This is an impromptu tiny CEO, just a little window like formed in my calendar, and thought I would jump in to talk about some KMS stuff because the show is back, baby. KMS is back. So this week we obviously had the classic podcast, and it was the taking calls, and it was not live on YouTube and was only released on the podcast app. So back to KMS 2019. I was actually thinking about staying up late and watching the show live on YouTube, and I'm so glad I didn't because I would have been furious had I stayed up till 2 a.m. Sydney time and then it wasn't live and they released it like 2 or 3 hours later. So dodged a bullet there. Personally, I really enjoyed the episode. I don't really care if it's live on YouTube and we get the podcast. I just want Kirk content in any form. And if he's happy doing it in podcast form, then I get it. And there are subtle differences to doing a show live on YouTube, which is a little bit more performative, a little bit more like a live TV show or radio, than doing a podcast that's a bit of sort of behind the veil and has a different feeling to it. When you record a podcast and release it later, it's like you're sort of eavesdropping into something. Whereas when you do it live on YouTube, as I said, it's more performative. So I get that. He's intimated a few times that he's going through some kind of medical treatment, and maybe that's the reason he doesn't want to be on camera. He even made some comment about Rhyno's funeral where he said he might have like a hospital tag on, I think was what he was saying. So not sure about that. I just hope he's doing well physically. And if he doesn't want to tell his audience about it, I think that's strange in a way because he's shared so much with us over the journey, but totally acceptable. I mean, if you know, it's your personal life, you can keep it private. But I just hope he's doing well. But the show's back. I mean, that was a proper KMS episode. And we'll get to what happened when we lost dear sweet Rhyno, but before that, like he seemed like he was back in on the show. He was talking about doing it regularly. I mean, when you think about it, it has gone from never doing another show to just dropping in occasionally to just doing a show every 2 weeks. Won't be long before he's doing a show weekly, the bare minimum, maybe even more. So KMS is not over. And I'm been in a bit of a mental pretzel, so to speak, that I was really starting to move on emotionally from the show. I was forming a whole plan for like post KMS content. I've been speaking to people about a re-listen. I've been working on ways to sort of memorialize the show, celebrate the show. But it's a little bit hard to celebrate and memorialize a show that's going to still be going on. So I'm in a bit of a quandary at the moment. I'm actually not sure what to do, just generally. Like I'm a bit aimless. I don't know. Do I just continue doing like Menace Live and Minifandom, like the show is going on? I'm actually a little bit rattled by everything emotionally, and it's my own fault because I'm far too attached to this dumb podcast that it's, as I said, put me in a mental pretzel. So we got the call-in show. It was really good, and hopefully we'll get more of them. And then, what, a day or two later, the next day, the news came out that sweet Rhyno had passed away. And let me just find the Rhyno obituary. So very sad. Obviously, when we lose, a great Mina fan, it's very sad. And he was a big part of the show. Now, look, I know, for example, Jackson wasn't a big fan of Rhyno's content, the old man content. He was very critical of him on the Aussie Minifan show. So he's probably, happy he's not going to be on the show anymore. But very sad. He was very endearing. Whether you found him funny or entertaining, that's another question. But he was an endearing old man. I do think if you'd taken like a straw poll and said like which will be the next Minifan that we lose. His odds would have come in pretty short. He didn't seem too healthy at the end. But yeah, it's a real loss. And just I'm reading here, sending love to his son Michael. It's all in his obituary, and quite young too, for 66 years old. That's fairly young age to be passing away. So R.I.P. Rhyno. And then the next day we got an old-fashioned memorial KMS episode with Blind Mike, Cullinane, Justin, and they were calling people to talk about Rhyno. And that was when I was like, yeah, the show is really not going anywhere, because Kirk was talking about how they're planning a road trip, they're planning live shows. He said he said once a month for a show minimum. That was kind of what he put out there. And I would imagine, as I said, that's just going to be once every 2 weeks. It's going to be once a week, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the show is back. They're not going to do a road trip for a show that's ended. They're not going to do, I don't think they're going to do a lot, like do a live show if the show's not going on. That's Kirk's doing the show. Kirk's doing the show. And I believe when he said the show was over, he believed it. But now he's changed his mind and he's seen the light. And I sort of said it at the time, and he shouldn't have made that rash decision to say the Kirk Minahan show was over, because it wasn't. Like, it wasn't the final Kirk Minahan show. It's 31st of January, and you could argue have had 4 or 5 KMS episodes since the show ended. So that's like an average of 1 a week since he ended the show. So it's not over. And I would implore Kirk to reach out to me next time for some sage advice, some Menace and Kirk one-on-one time, because some people are going to have moved on already, and the show is going to come back. So it's frustrating. It's very, very frustrating. But good news is the show's back. So I'm just, as I said, like, I'm working through this in real time. Yeah, you are seeing me trying to process what is going on with this podcast, and it's not pretty, because I've been up and down. As I said, about a week or 2 ago, I'd fully accepted the show was over, and I'd talked to people about re-listens and stuff. So now I'm thrilled that it's back. I just want Kirk to stop messing around with it. I put it like the analogy. I put this on Twitter, and it's true. Kirk is like an ex-girlfriend that breaks up with you. So they break up with you. They're hot. You want to keep banging them. They break up with you. And then you move on, and you think you're getting over her. You stop thinking about her, and then you get a message one night, hey, can I pop over for a quick root? She comes over, you do it again, and then you're back in there, and you're back thinking about her all the time. So that's where we are with Kirk at the moment. And I would just like him to come to some kind of resolution for himself. Like, clearly he does not want to say goodbye to the show. Like, this is not a man that is ready to say goodbye to this audience. I think that is plainly obvious, especially this week. It really surfaced. But I think Kirk is going through some stuff, mental, physical, whatever it is. And for him, mentally, it's cleaner just to go, the show's over, and whatever he has to deal with it. But then he's going to come back to the show. So it's it's fantastic that we're getting Kirk content. I mean, the 2 episodes this week, even though one was sad because we were talking about the loss of Rhyno, we still had 2 classic KMS episodes this week. So yeah, really good stuff. Really good stuff. I wonder how many Minifans will go to Rhyno's funeral. Kane said that Kirk shouldn't be the one talking about the funeral. It should be Rhyno's family who decides who goes. And I agree with him. It is up to Rhyno's family. Maybe they want some Minifans there. Maybe the Ryans want Kane and Mama Kay and Kevin, all those people. So I'll be curious to see how many Minifans turn up. All right, so some other things from this week. Firstly, Kane did a good show this week with American Menace, and American Menace's dad was good friends with Rhyno, I think. So go back and listen to Kane with American Menace this week, because there's some really good Rhyno stuff there. It's some lovely tribute. And actually, it's a really good episode, the the Kane episode with American Menace. I mean, Kane talks his usual drivel at points, but American Menace is a very good guest. I don't think we look alike. I think we look similar in a way that like two sort of balding middle-aged men look, but I wouldn't say like I think Kane and I looks more similar than I can't believe I'm in this, but I think probably Kane and I look more similar than Kane and myself and American Menace. Or just the way this tiny CEO is going. It's not going to be a long one. I've got a few things to talk about. Then I'm going to hit the chat for some questions. I'm not reading the chat because it's very, very distracting. So I'm not going to read it till the end, but then right at the end, I will ask for questions. I did see quickly people complaining about me not having a shirt on. It is really hot in here. I'm sorry, but I was like getting red and hot just beforehand. So in Australia in summer, if you go to the supermarket, there'll be chicks walking around in bikinis. There'll be men in boxer shorts or swimmers, nothing else on. It's just the Australian culture. You see my tattoos. They're my dead. The big one's the cat Charlie, and the small one's the dog Alice. They're the actual paw prints. That's the only ink I've got. But yeah, in Australia, it's not uncommon to walk around with his top on, so I wouldn't say it's particularly disgusting. And look, I'll be releasing this in audio version, so Jackson, you can listen to it there. Just because this is awakening your bisexual feelings, we know what's going on. We know what's going on, Jackson. We all know. So, where was I? Yeah, Kane had American Menace on. It's a very good show. I went on Kane's show last week, and I shouldn't have. I shouldn't have lowered myself and gone on that show because Kane is the worst person to argue with because he says things, but he's too dumb to even back them up. Like he'll put out there, "Oh, I support PRC," but then when you tell him he's being hypocritical, he just sort of goes, "Okay, all right, sorry, I was just joking." And then you tell him he's being racist, and he goes, "I didn't mean that." I'm saying, well, that's what you're saying, though. Oh, I didn't know that. Or no, I'm not. I didn't say that. Well, you're saying that you think black people are inferior because you worked with a few people. He was saying on Kane's Corner, black people should look after their kids. I mean, there's nothing more racist than that. Like inferring that black people can't look after their kids. And can you imagine what a great parent Kane is? No. Like those kids are starting like behind the 8 ball with Kane as their dad, not just the genetics either. A combination of the genetics and his parenting. So Kane's a very frustrating person to argue with because he did sort of apologize at the end for saying he sided with PRC, but yeah, that's my realization in the last few weeks about Kane is, and I appreciate his loyalty. He's always very nice to me, and I will always be loyal to Kane, but I've just accepted he's a generational dummy. He can't actually argue properly. And these bunnies and all this extra oxygen he's got has got to his head to make him think he's something that he's not. But, Kane, I would say to you, if you're going to say stuff, you got to be able to back it up. So, if you say something, you got to be able to stand by your word most of the time. Sure, in a show, sometimes stuff comes out that maybe you don't mean or comes across the wrong way. But you can't say this stuff and then when you question on it, just plead, "Oh, no, didn't really mean it that way." But like you're a fucking idiot. I can see why a lot of people really hate you because you have the ability to drive people crazy. And now that you think just because the bunnies like you and stuff, and the bunnies are dropping off. I mean, they're not going to keep watching your dumb show. So, so you're very, very strange. I'll always be a Kane guy, but. He needs to be better. He needs to evolve. He's only been doing shows for a little while. He needs to make sure he can back up the dumb shit he says sometimes. And don't be racist. I mean, it's a pretty solid rule. Don't be racist. Speaking of one, Jess Machado, I do have a few comments to say about Jess, although I don't think many people really care about her. One thing I will say, she very much cared about what Kirk said about her. She is the type of person that can't take anything back. So she's surrounded herself with all these sycophantic bunnies that hop around her, fawning love, but she can't take any blowback. So she said, she was carrying on about how she was so happy to be mentioned by Kirk Minahan. she wasn't happy to be mentioned by Kirk Minahan. She was filthy that she'd been called a cunt, and she tried to play this whole act where she wasn't upset. Oh, told my family Kirk Minahan mentioned me. Never heard such bullshit in my whole life. And something just twigged in me about her when I was listening to her on Kane's Corner. So Kane asked her what she did. So she doesn't have a job per se. She does her show full time, all the time. Like she's live all the time on YouTube, and she has a lot of really dedicated fans. I said these sycophantic idiots that will just nod and hop around at whatever she says. They'll never question her. They'll never give her any feedback that's negative. They'll just take what she says as face value. Like they're not going to be a very difficult fan base. So anyway, when Jess was on Kane's show, she said, "I get people elected." And Kane asked her a couple of times, and she was a real arrogant bitch about it. I get people elected. So doing a bit of research, reading between the lines, poking around here or there, she's a very, very like the lowest of the low on the political totem pole. She's at local government, and she's going around getting signatures for petitions and stuff to get people elected. She's not doing anything. She's not some great political puppet master behind the scenes. She's just doing like the shit work that no one else wants to do. And you know what is scary? She's the worst type of like public. She's not even a servant, because I don't think she's getting paid. Normally, you get paid if you're a public servant. So I don't know what the word would be, but whatever, public volunteer. She's the worst type of public volunteer, because she's not doing it to serve the public or because of the greater good. She's doing it because she's an arrogant bitch. Like she wants to feel like she's in control. She's not there to help. She's like trying to take some glory. Like for her to be saying, I get people elected, and then all she does is get signatures on a roll for people to become representatives at probably the lowest government level possible. Like we're talking probably town government, probably does the PTA. She probably makes sure the right people are on the PTA at the local school. So for her to say, I get people elected, what a like arrogant person. And this is scary, because these are the type of people that are into local politics in that area. She's not there to help anyone. Not at all. She's there to self-aggrandize and push her own agenda. It's disgusting. It is really disgusting. And she won't ever get any of other people questioning her, because she's surrounded herself with people who just take on board what she said. But when she said, I get people elected, my ears pricked up. Like, yeah, you're a fucking bitch, aren't you? Like, there's no way you get people elected. She doesn't have a job in politics. She doesn't work for any political parties. She just walks around the street probably getting signatures on petitions to get representatives. Not even on elected, just on ballots. Like she does it for herself, for her own self-aggrandizement, not because she's particularly passionate about stuff. So not a nice person, and so soft. I mean, she is the softest person. So she said she was going to rate all the Minifan guys on her Dumb Show Bunny After Dark, and it turned out to just be the worst segment. Like she's just like going to put photos up and like take stuff from the chat. Poorly organized, poorly planned. So she said she was going to do this, and she said on one of her shows, I can't wait to see where Menace falls on this list. And because I quite appropriately know that I'm not some male model type figure, I've accepted that. I knew I was going to be right down the bottom of the Minifan male rankings. I'm a middle-aged, balding, short man. I'm not an idiot either. So I put a tweet out that this is not going to bother me. I know I'm hideous. So straight away she removed me from the list. So fortunately I escaped even that ridicule. So she didn't realize I was obviously doing that, so they wouldn't put me up. And I was just, she's just dumb. She's just dumb. She's dumb. All right, more Inside Network stuff. What's his name? Jake, the doxing prick, had some show going, and then I see Kane pops up there. So I see what Kane's got to say. Then I see out of nowhere Joe the Axe pops up. Joe the Axe, former co-CEO, my subordinate on the network. And I have to say, before we go on, Joe the Axe looked just unbelievable on the stream. I mean, hubba hubba. I mean, she was just looking really good. I've got a photo. I'm going to put it up. Just so she was looking amazing, and they were having a bit of a chat. It's just very odd for Joe to pop up on a Jake show with Kane. Like, what is going on in Joe's life that she would pop up with Jake? I mean, things must be pretty bad if you're doing that. So anyway, I've just got this photo of Joe loading. I just want to. So for those watching on like that, that's a screenshot I took off, not to jerk off to. I know what you're thinking. I put it on Twitter, but looking great. I mean, I can see why John from Scranton hit her up for a threesome with his girlfriend when they were in, where was it, Portland? I think that was it. Ask Jo about it. She'll tell you all about it. John and his girlfriend love threesomes with hot women, and Joe qualifies. So anyway, so Joe is talking about the network and stuff, and really simply, the network, everything was fine until Kirk made the big split, and I don't want to go over that. And Joe, myself and Joe's relationship has always been very good, but she said a couple of things. She said that I only like to. I'm good if I get what I want. Like I like to run the show. And that's not really true. I'm very accommodating. I let people do what they want. There was a couple of occasions where tough decisions needed to be made, and Joe didn't want to make those tough decisions, and I had to. And they were just differences in opinion. I think sometimes you have to be a bit hard to run a network, and Joe's a lovely, sweet person. And sometimes I would be the bad cop and she would be the good cop. But I would let her do what she wanted all the time. Like she had free reign. And then she would made like a jab at me. And I needed to be front and center. Point is, I think there is a slight complication when the CEO is also one of the leading content creators on the network. So I'm not just a CEO, but I also do the shows that, generally are the most viewed and the most popular. And you could say I'm the biggest talent on the Minifan network channel. That's not for me to say, that's for other people to say, but I'll say it. So there is a conflict there between sort of content and being CEO. And I guess maybe I can feel that from her point of view, because sometimes the two don't always coexist as well. It's like if Kirk had been in charge of EEI as well as being the star of breakfast radio. I'm sure it would have been a bit of a shit show if that was the case. So, so I sort of took that with a grain of salt, what she said about me. Like I think she was a lot nicer than I was, and I made some tough decisions, and she wasn't on board with all of them. But we never had a falling out. I mean, the network split up. Mike and the Minifans went off with John, and he destroyed it. So there was no falling out with myself and Joe, and she's always welcome back on the network. And I appreciate everything she did. She did the best job of Mike and the Minifans of any producer that's ever done the show. She had the best guests. She was the most organized, and Kirk threw it in her face. And the show was never actually, Mike and the Minifans has never come back. So that's where we are. Well, I think that's all I really wanted to jump on. I'm going to take questions from the chat now, so start popping them in there if you've got questions. But really, we've lost Rhyno this week. And on that whole debate about the memorial Rhyno cinema, I'm sorry, but cinema, he deserves the full attention at that memorial, because, he's a young man who died in the prime of his life, who was so much part of the show. I loved Rhyno, but he wasn't nearly as part of the show as cinema was, and for as long. And Rhyno, late 60s, the way he looked, I think you could see it coming. So not so much of a shock as when we lost cinema. All right, I'll take questions from the chat, and then we're moving moving on. Menace has touched his nose 45 times. Coke problem. This is from, haven't done Coke for years. Oh, here we go. You're an absolute dick. Try watching Jess to get the real facts, knobhead. I like this. Yep. Well, I have got the real facts. Jess is full of shit. And I'm not gonna go on with this anymore. We're not playing in the same sandpit. She can't take it. Like, she's scared. There's no way she'd want to like go one-on-one with me on any show. If I'm in her area and she's running my local politics, I am petrified that this, as I said, I'm petrified. If she's running my local politics, you should be very, very scared. All right, here we go. Jet Favre, I'm glad you brought this up. How pissed do you think Kirk is with Portnoy's quip about the Minahan payroll being through the roof? So I noticed this. So there was a clip tweeted out by David in Maryland, which I tweeted out, and it was that Mutt is definitely not going to the Super Bowl, and Portnoy made a quip about the Minahan payroll being out of control. So, obviously that's Justin, Dave, and he considers Mutt to be part of the payroll, and Kirk. Yeah, there's definitely some stuff going on there behind the scenes, but also, if Kirk is sick, that also makes sense. Like, to everything that's gone on, if Kirk has needed treatment for something, mental, physical, whatever, then this all makes perfect sense now. It's not chicken fry. It's not the show being axed. It's Kirk needed time off to get treatment, and everybody's giving him that time. So that's the way I read it. But if Porno wants to cut some dead weight, just get rid of Justin. I mean, what's he doing? Nothing. I mean, Kirk keeps saying it. Justin's doing nothing. So fire him. All right, I will be taking. Oh, here we go. Jenny Bean, and we do have some bunnies in here. I mean, bunnies. I've got no problem with the bunnies. I will, but this is not for you. You know, I'm not Kane. I don't give a shit about the bunnies. I don't give a shit about the lovies. You can go away. I mean, you can stay if you want, but I'm going to be talking about inside Minifan stuff. I mean, that's why I didn't want Jess on my show, because I don't talk about, I'm not going to interview Jess about her, stupid career in local politics, which is all a fucking lie. So yeah, that's it. That's it. Anyway, this is Tiny CEO. I think I've just been rambling on. The show is back. KMS is back. RIP Rhyno. And I'll be back soon. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, because, as I said, I was working on a plan for the show to end. Like, the show was over. I was about to start a re-listen from episode 1. I can't start a episode 1 re-listen if they keep fucking doing new episodes. I mean, it wouldn't, like, if it just wouldn't make sense if they're going to be doing episodes all the time, start a re-listen. I don't know what to do right now, generally. That's why there was no Menace Live or Minifandom planned this week, because I'm like, what the fuck do I do? Is this show on? Is it off? Anyway. Bye.